Disclaimer: the following program is designed to offend, provoke, and challenge your religious sensibilities. It contains content that will likely offend anyone who holds religion sacred. This is for those with thick skin or a taste for the harsh truth. If you're easily offended or cherish your religious views, please turn off now. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. You have been warned. Welcome back to Troll the Verse, where ancient texts get the skeptical breakdown they deserve. If you thought Genesis 2 was a mess, just wait. Genesis 3 is where things go completely off the rails. We've got a talking snake, the world's most dramatic overreaction to a snack, and a deity who apparently didn't think through the consequences of free will. Quick heads up, instead of reading the entire NIV chapter, I'm giving you a punchy synopsis for each segment while the actual text shows on screen. That way you get to see the biblical nonsense for yourself while we dive straight into the roast. Before we dive into this divine catastrophe, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and ring the bell so you never miss another biblical roast. And of course, drop a comment below, love it, hate it, or just want to rant about how badly this whole story is structured. I want to hear it. Now, let's get into the moment that supposedly ruined everything. Genesis 3, verses 1 through 5. A wild talking snake appears, and unlike everyone else in this story, it actually seems to have a brain. The serpent casually asks Eve, "Hey, did God really say you can't eat from any tree?" Eve clarifies, "No, just the one in the middle. Eat it and we die." The snake, clearly unimpressed, basically tells her, "That's not true. God just doesn't want you to be like him, knowing good and evil." So right out of the gate, we have a talking snake, and no one finds this even remotely weird. Eve doesn't flinch, scream, or question her entire reality. No, wait, since when do snakes talk? Just straight into casual conversation like she's been chatting with the local reptiles since birth. And let's take a second to process what the snake is saying. Of all the characters in this story, the snake is the only one making sense. It literally points out that knowledge isn't a bad thing. Meanwhile, God's playing the overprotective parent, locking away wisdom like it's alcohol in a house full of teenagers. And let's not ignore the huge plot hole. Why is the most dangerous tree in existence right in the middle of paradise? This isn't some hidden off-limits location. No, it's front and center, like a glowing do not touch button. Who designs a perfect utopia with a trap at the center? That's like putting a self-destruct button in the middle of a playground. It's almost like God wanted them to fail. And the snake, it wasn't even wrong. When they eat the fruit, they don't drop dead on the spot. They actually gain knowledge, just like the snake said. So either God seriously overhyped the consequences, or this was just divine fear-mongering at its finest. And here's another contradiction. If Adam and Eve didn't know good and evil before they ate the fruit, how could they have known disobedience was wrong? How do you punish someone for making a moral choice they were incapable of understanding? That's not justice. That's entrapment. Genesis 3, verse 6 and 7. Eve looks at the fruit, seems legit. She eats it, gives some to Adam, and boom, they suddenly realize they're naked. So naturally, they panic and start sewing fig leaves together like they're in some kind of divine Project Runway disaster. So this is the infamous fall of man, the moment that supposedly dooms all of humanity forever, and it's a snack break. That's it. No earthquakes, no thunderbolts, no angelic SWAT team descending from the heavens, just two people eating a piece of fruit and then realizing they forgot to wear pants. And really, why is nakedness their first concern? Not, wow, I suddenly understand morality, or I have infinite wisdom. Nope, it's, oh no, our genitals are out. This is supposed to be divine knowledge? This is not the intellectual enlightenment I was expecting. Also, instant sewing skills. They eat a fruit and suddenly they're tailors. Are we just ignoring the fact that these are two people with zero prior experience in clothing? If eating fruit auto-installed new abilities, I'd be out here raiding orchards for superpowers. And what exactly was Adam doing while Eve was having this moral dilemma? Because if he was standing there the whole time, why didn't he say anything? Or did he just watch her take a bite and think, let's see what happens to her first? And let's not forget the huge theological question, was knowledge really the problem here? Because last I checked, understanding right from wrong is generally considered a good thing. If they were truly ignorant of evil before eating the fruit, then how is punishing them for making a choice they couldn't understand even remotely fair? This is divine gaslighting at its finest. And let's not ignore another massive contradiction. If humans were already mortal, then what exactly changed. Because very soon, God is about to say, now they will surely die. But if they were already going to die eventually, then what was the punishment? Genesis 3, verses 8 through 13, God shows up, strolling through the garden like it's just another Tuesday, and Adam and Eve hide. God calls out, "Where are you?" Adam, not grasping how omniscience works, answers, "I was naked, so I hid." God, suddenly Sherlock Holmes, asks, "Who told you that? Did you eat from the tree?" Adam immediately shifts into blame mode. "The woman you gave me, she did it." Eve, not to be outdone, points at the snake. "He tricked me." So, God doesn't know where Adam is? Omniscient, all-powerful, all-seeing creator of the universe playing hide-and-seek with his own handmade humans? Either he's pretending or omniscience is glitching out today. Let's really think about this for a second. How does this make sense? This is the same God who supposedly knows every thought before it's even spoken, can see the past, present, and future all at once, designed the entire fabric of reality, space, and time. But now he's wandering through Eden like a confused mall security guard calling out, Adam, where'd you go, buddy? If omniscience was real, God shouldn't have to ask any questions. He should already know exactly where Adam is, what he's thinking, and what he had for breakfast. And it gets worse. God doesn't just ask where Adam is. He follows up with even more clueless questions. He asks, Adam, who told you that you were naked? Excuse me? Who told him? God, you literally programmed this entire world. Who else could have told him? Was there some rogue angel running an underground nudity awareness campaign? Was a talking parrot flying around shouting, "Cover your shame"? And then, as if he still hasn't figured it out, God asks, did you eat from the tree? Wow, really? The fact that Adam is suddenly embarrassed about his nakedness wasn't already a giveaway? What happened to divine insight? This is like watching a detective stand over a dead body and ask, wait, is this guy dead? And now we enter the most predictable part of the story, the blame game. Adam barely hesitates before immediately throwing Eve under the divine bus. The woman you gave me, she did it. Wow, Adam, incredible leadership skills. And let's break this down further. He's not just blaming Eve, he's blaming God too. Look at how carefully he words this. He says, the woman you gave me, she did it. So Adam is basically saying, listen, God, I didn't ask for this lady. You're the one who decided I needed a +1. If you just left me alone with the animals, I wouldn't be in this mess. Adam just subtly made this God's fault. That's next level scapegoating. And Eve, she sees where this is going and immediately panics. Instead of defending herself, she points the finger at the snake. The serpent deceived me. Ah, the timeless, the devil made me do it defense. I love it. So at this point, it's a full courtroom drama. Adam blames Eve, Eve blames the snake, and the snake just sits there in silence. This is what really blows my mind. The only character who actually told the truth, the snake, gets 0 defense. It didn't lie, it didn't manipulate, it literally told Eve the truth. But because God didn't like the outcome, the snake is about to get punished harder than anyone else. Let's just appreciate the absurdity here. God has to ask questions he should already know the answers to. Adam blames Eve and God in one breath. Eve blames the snake. The snake, despite being correct, gets the worst treatment. And you're telling me this is a lesson in morality? At no point does anyone actually take responsibility. There's no, yeah, we screwed up, sorry. Just a giant blame circle where everyone tries to escape punishment. And God, instead of handling this rationally, is about to go full-on wrath mode. But we'll get to that soon enough. First, let's watch how divine justice plays out. Unsurprisingly, it's as ridiculous as you'd expect. Genesis 3 verses 14 through 19. God doesn't bother getting anyone's side of the story. He just starts handing out punishments like a furious principal handing out detentions. The snake gets cursed to crawl on its belly and eat dust, which raises some serious anatomical questions. Eve is sentenced to painful childbirth and eternal subservience to her husband because apparently one bad decision means all women forever must suffer. And Adam, he gets cursed to farm and eventually die because apparently manual labor is divine punishment. All right, let's start with the most important question. What was the snake doing before this? God curses it to crawl on its belly. So, was it walking? Did it have legs? Are we talking about a lizard person, a dragon, a prehistoric snake with feet? I mean, if snakes originally had legs, we really should be thanking the snake for telling Eve to eat the fruit, because I do not want to live in a world with galloping snakes. So, and why dust? I don't know if God's ever seen a snake, but they don't eat dust. This punishment feels like it was assigned on impulse. Just a quick crawl in the dirt and eat dust. Yeah, that sounds miserable. Divine logic at its finest. Now, on to Eve's punishment. Brace yourself, ladies, because apparently all women for all time are doomed to suffer in childbirth because one person made a bad snack decision. That's divine justice, baby. Also, God adds, your husband will rule over you. Wow. So not only is Eve getting physical punishment, she's also being assigned to a lifetime of oppression. And people say the Bible is about love and justice, and then we get to Adam. His punishment? He has to farm. That's it. If working the land is a divine punishment, then most of ancient humanity was cursed by default. I mean, at least Eve gets a curse that makes sense. Childbirth is painful. But farming? Congratulations, Adam. You just got assigned a career. And then God just casually throws in death. From dust you came, and to dust you will return. Hold up. Wasn't death always on the table? It sounded like the tree of life was always off limits, because that raises some massive theological questions. If Adam and Eve were always mortal, then what changed? If they were originally immortal, and it doesn't specify that, then why put the tree of life in the garden at all? Like, and here's a real head scratcher. Why doesn't God just kill them now? If the punishment is death, why drag it out over centuries? Instead, God basically says, you're going to die, but not yet. First, you have to suffer. What a gracious and merciful deity. Also, let's zoom out for a second. Humanity just got cursed forever over a single bad choice. There's no second chance, no divine forgiveness. Just one mistake and boom, eternal suffering. So why do Christians say God is loving and merciful when this is how he handles the first sin? And let's talk about the elephant in the garden. Who else was this punishment for? Because there are only two humans at this point. So, why do their kids inherit the curse? If your parents mess up, should that really mean you have to suffer too? This is literally the definition of generational punishment. And yet, in Ezekiel 18, the Bible says God doesn't punish people for their parents' sins. Oops. So to summarize, the snake gets an illogical punishment. Eve gets cursed into oppression. Adam has to be a farmer, and humanity gets permanently screwed for a minor infraction. After all the cosmic temper tantrums, Adam suddenly decides to name Eve. Because, yeah, now seems like a great time for that. The world is crumbling, they've just been cursed, and he's like, wait, I should name my wife. Meanwhile, God finally realizes there's another problem, the tree of life. Apparently, it just occurred to him that Adam and Eve could also eat from that tree and become immortal. So in full panic mode, God boots them out of Eden, throws up some divine eviction notices, and sets up a flaming sword at the entrance. Because nothing says loving God like fire hazards and permanent exile. First things first, why is Adam playing the name game right now? They've just been cursed with death, suffering, and endless toil, and Adam's first priority is renaming his wife? Really? This isn't just bad timing, it's completely unnecessary. Eve was already referred to as woman earlier in the text. Why does she suddenly need a name now after everything has already fallen apart? It's almost like the writers of Genesis realized they forgot to introduce her official name earlier and just shoved it in here at the last minute. Now let's talk about God's sudden crisis over the tree of life. So apparently only now does he realize that Adam and Eve might eat from it. So this all-knowing deity forgot that he left a literal immortality tree completely unguarded. This is the divine equivalent of leaving nuclear launch codes on a sticky note and then panicking when someone finds them. And this raises some massive theological contradictions. If Adam and Eve were already immortal, then what was the point of the tree of life? If they were never immortal to begin with, then why was death used as a punishment? If they could have eaten from the tree of life all along, why didn't they? Were they just not hungry until now? And why is God acting like this is a shocking new development? This isn't foresight, it's divine damage control. It's like a game developer realizing they left an exploit in the code and rushing to patch it before players figure it out. And then comes one of the most bizarre lines in the Bible. God says, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Like one of us? Excuse me? I thought there was only one God. Who's us supposed to be? Who is he talking to? The angels? Because last I checked, angels aren't considered equals to God. The Trinity? That would be a neat trick, except the Trinity wasn't even a concept yet. Or are we talking about other gods? Because if God is saying man has become like one of us, that sure makes it sound like there's more than one divine being hanging around. And this isn't even the only time God randomly starts referring to himself in the plural. We saw it back in Genesis 1 verse 26. Let us make man in our image too. If the Bible was truly monotheistic, you'd think God would be able to refer to himself in the singular. But hey, we can't sit around questioning divine consistency all day because God is about to unleash his final overreaction. Instead of simply taking away the tree of life or moving it somewhere inaccessible, he goes with the most theatrical option possible, posting a flaming sword at the entrance of Eden. A flaming sword, because apparently Adam and Eve are the type to stage a rebellion and storm paradise like it's Area 51. Who exactly does God think is coming back? They just got a personal death sentence. I don't think they're eager to run back inside. Let's talk about the mechanics of this flaming sword. Is it floating in midair? Does it just spin around like a fiery security system? What happens if something accidentally bumps into it? Because if you really think about it, posting a flaming sword at the entrance of a garden feels less like divine security and more like a video game boss fight. Genesis meets Elden Ring, and the funniest part, this is God's best idea to keep them out. Not erasing the tree of life from existence, not moving it somewhere safe, just big fire sword go brrrr. And then there's the ultimate loose end. What happens to the tree of life now? Does it just sit there, untouched for eternity? Does it rot? Do the animals eat from it and gain immortality? Does some rogue angel sneak back in for a quick snack and become invincible? Because if the tree of life was so dangerous, why not destroy it? Why just lock the door and leave it inside? Look, I don't even want to continue my analysis of this. It's so ridiculous. Let's wrap up. And that wraps up our glorious breakdown of Genesis 3, where a talking snake made more sense than God and humanity got doomed over a single bite. What do you think? Ancient myth? Divine injustice? The world's first case of entrapment? Sound off in the comments. I genuinely want to hear your take on this absurdity. If you enjoyed this breakdown of divine nonsense, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and ring that bell so you never miss another biblical roast on Troll the Verse. And now you decide what's next. Do we continue dissecting Genesis, or should we jump to another biblical disaster? Drop your vote in the comments. Until next time, keep your skepticism sharp and your arguments sharper.